Hi there, my name is Scott Nicholson, and I'm an associate professor at Syracuse University School of Information Studies. And for this academic year, I'm a visiting professor at the Comparative Media Studies program and working with the Singapore MIT Gambit Game Lab here at MIT. And I want to talk a little bit about something I've been working more and more on, and that's gamification, and more specifically, meaningful gamification. The purpose of this video is to give you a brief introduction to what gamification is, then talk about meaningful gamification, and talk about some considerations if you're looking to use gamification in your organization. This isn't designed to be a drawn-out tutorial, but more as a way for me to get feedback from you to help me as I'm moving forward, because I'm working on some articles and books and things on this topic. And I'd love to hear feedback that you have on these ideas and things that you'd like to see as I'm exploring this. So first, let's talk about gamification. Now, this is a term that's been coming into popularity over the last few years. And there was an article by Dieterting and others that defined it as the use of game design elements in non-game contexts. So actually, it's been around for a long time. The word gamification is relatively new, but the concept has been around for some time. Frequent flyer programs, for example, are a great example of gamification. As you fly, you get miles, and as you get more miles credits, then it raises your status, and that status is affiliated with rewards. And so that's gamified flying, and it draws a lot of people to stay on specific airlines. Libraries have had gamified summer reading programs for a long time. So in many public library summer reading programs, kids mark down the number of books that they read, and the kids who read the most books get some kind of a prize at the end of the summer. But actually, school itself is a gamification. If you think about it, when you go to school, you're really there to learn stuff, but we have such a focus on grades, on getting these artificial letters, A, B, C, D, and F. We skipped E, but we've assigned all of this weight to whatever you do turns into points, which turns into these letters, and these are different levels at which you win the class. And so really, we've had this concept of gamification going on for a long time. Now, the current implementations of what's going on with gamification is as follows. The idea is you do something to get points. And the more points you get, the higher level you get. And so you get names based upon the level you achieve. And those levels are tied to some sort of external reward. Then there will be other things like badges or achievements that you can get. And these things are very specific things you do during the course of the activity that may not be something you'll get points for, but something special that you've done. And so this concept has been what's become known as gamification. Now, there's an underlying concern to all of this. One of the assumptions in this model of gamification is that these external rewards replace internal motivation. The O'Reilly book that talks about gamification talks about this concept that you're replacing internal motivation with external rewards. But Deci and Kostner and Ryan did a piece where they looked at a lot of educational work on motivation. And what they found is that if you had external rewards that were controlling, it reduced people's internal motivation to do the activity. So what this means is that if you start gamification based on external rewards, you have to do it forever. Because if you stop, people's motivation to do that thing is going to be lower than it was when you started. So you're going to be worse off. And this is the secret that the gamification consultants and companies aren't telling people. It's there, it's in the O'Reilly book. There's a sentence in there that says, once you start giving someone a reward, you have to keep her in that reward loop forever. And so that's a real concern to me, that people are getting involved with gamification, not realizing that once you start giving external rewards for something, you don't get to stop giving external rewards. You have to keep that program going forever, or you're going to be worse off than you were when you started. So if you think about what goes into a game, it's some sort of play that has rules associated with it. So it's rule-based play. But then there's a goal you're trying to achieve, and in many games there's a scoring system affiliated with that goal. What gamification is doing is just taking the scoring system and applying it to non-game activities. And that's the most boring part of a game, is the scoring system. What you want to do is think about the cool stuff, the play. How could you take elements from play and game design elements from the play side of things and bring it into non-game activities? That's where this starts to get meaningful and interesting. And when I talk about meaningful gamification, what I'm talking about is creating experiences based in game design that are meaningful to the user, that are focused on the play and not on the external reward. In fact, I challenge people using gamification to do it without external rewards. how to have things from the fun, the play, that are motivating, that gets you involved with the activity, or that allow you to connect that activity to something inside of you to make it more meaningful. And Desi and Ryan say that when you have experiences that are meaningful like this, that are motivating, you can then internalize it and it's a positive experience. But if you have something based only on external rewards, when you internalize it, it becomes a negative experience. Now, this is a big challenge, and there's two main reasons for the challenge. One, there's no universal solution. If you're looking to hire a gamification consultant, and what they want to do is come in with a system of points, levels, rewards, and achievements. This generic system that they're going to just drop into whatever. That's the problematic. That creates a negative experience for your users, and if you stop doing it, you're going to be worse off than when you begin. Instead, you need to think about the non-game activity you're focusing on and think deeply about, well, how could we bring in gaming activities? When you talk with someone to help you with this, you want to find out what is their gaming toolbox. What sort of games have they worked with? Have they worked with board games, card games, role-playing games, iPad games? Do they have a large toolbox that they can come and say, let's look at what's going on and figure it out? Because a lot of these folks who are coming into gamification consulting don't have experience with games. And they haven't spent time thinking about the wide spectrum of game-like activities that are out there. So when you're looking for someone to work with you, you want to find someone that has a large toolbox of game design experiences. The other problem here is the concept of being meaningful. Now, I come at this out of library and information science. And in my background and in library and information science, one of the challenges is the concept of relevance. That in a library, you want to try and have materials that are relevant to someone's information need. And what we have found over decades of research is there's no universal answer as to what is relevant to a question. You have to know something about the user who's asking that question to determine what is relevant. And the same problem is here with the concept of meaningful. Meaningfulness is determined by each individual player. So what you have to do is create a gamification experience that's robust, that's rich, that has a lot of different hooks to allow people to engage with it in the way that's meaningful to them. And that's the important part of user-centered, meaningful gamification, that you put the user in the middle, you provide them with the tools they need to find meaning so that they will then have a positive experience about what it is you're trying to have them do. So, if you want to get started with this stuff, if you want to turn to a consultant, make sure you find someone who knows more about games than just adding point systems. But rather than go to a consultant, I would suggest you first turn internally, because there are millions of gamers out there who are working in companies and working in organizations and teaching in schools who've taken what they know about gaming and put it away in a little box when they come to work. And this is the time you want them to open that box, to get their ideas. People who've played games for a long time know a lot of different game mechanisms to explore things like risk versus reward and resource management and planning and strategy and tactics and how to motivate people. They've been doing this for decades, and they could bring ideas to help you think about how can we add game-like elements to what it is we're doing. So look inside first and find your people who are gamers. And if you're a gamer out there watching this, know that your decades of playing games provide valuable experience for organizations to help them think about how they could take some of those game elements and bring them into your company. So don't box away everything you know from gaming. Instead, bring it up and say, hey, what if we did this? What if we did that? Take your passion and let it out and see what comes from it. So, what I'd like to do is have your feedback on this stuff. I'm writing a book right now where I'm going to be doing case studies, exploring different ways to bring in gamification. I'd love to hear what you think about what you've heard today. You can email me at scott@scottnicholson.com. If you want to keep up with my talkings and writings on this, my website, my blog for this is at becauseplaymatters.com. Why? Because play matters. So, this is my little piece hoping to make gamification into something we could be proud of instead of something we look at and see it as exploitationware, as Ian Bogos said. So anyway, that's it for now, and stay tuned for more, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye-bye.